Good morning, everyone. This is Erika with Aurora Heart Healing again, having some emotional insight. I actually pulled some cards. Last night I had a sound bath, and it's really interesting because my heart had been longing for a tarot deck, and my client does not know this, but she came and she was telling me, "Oh, I got this deck for you." And I had been longing for one. I just didn't know what I wanted. I kept feeling like it just wasn't what the ones that I was seeing were just not resonating. And she got me soul cards. And these cards are actually cards that are up to my interpretation of things. And the way that I see them, I'm going to give you a little bit of a reading. And I do believe that that is going to come into the next subject of these emotions that we're going to be talking about today. But this is the first card. There's no name, there's no meaning. There's no anything aside from my interpretation. But what I do see is someone that is enveloped, someone that they have everything within them, but they're so wounded. You see, they've gotten hurt. They're trying to shield themselves from all of the pain that is going on in their lives, in their heart. And they're trying to protect. Maybe even the way that this person is looking, they're kind of ignorant to the fact that they're going through this. They have so many shields up that they don't even recognize what's within them, the power that they hold, the amount of energy, the universe that is within them that they could just access if they just looked within, putting these shields up. This one to me is a person really looking into those shadows, really cultivating, loving, understanding, building, growing, giving an artistic expression to those shadows that come through. We all have them. If someone says it's their fault or it's your fault or whatever that is, that's just a shadow being blocked. The light is being blocked in that. And as we move from wounding, shielding, unawareness, avoidance, we can go into diving deep into that shadow, looking at what it is that has hurt us, how we are hurting others because of our own wounds within us, and how we can change that darkness into beautiful light. To me, I see a little kid right here looking up into the light, looking at hope, looking at clarity, looking at God or universe, whatever you want to call it, and seeing that there's a greater purpose for all of this. And as this person looks inside and really transforms and transmutes that energy, that shadow into love and light, they become reborn. To me, this looks like a developing star. A star is being born within. Finding the truth, finding your wings, finding knowledge and wisdom, guidance, and being readily open to accept it. There's a difference between criticism and guidance, healthy, constructive criticism and criticism. And constructive criticism comes from a place of love, value, respect. Criticism comes from a place of hurt, anger, shadow. When we are open to construction, to seeing what might be inside of us that we need to clear or develop, then we can actually build beautiful, amazing things. We can be reborn. We can be birthed into a new sense of who we are. This next one, she just looks so peaceful to me. Sitting with who she is, who she wants to be, knowing that there are things that she's holding, but also more that she's letting go. Things that no longer serve her are just floating away. And it might be a her, it might be a him. Who knows? It's up to interpretation. But freedom, nurturing, love, creativity, letting go of baggage. Baggage is our emotional state. If we do not step back and say, I am willing to heal what hurts me, if you're not willing to look back and say, how have I contributed to this? Maybe I wasn't taking responsibility for the way that I felt and I projected it onto someone else. Maybe my wounding, my emptiness, my shielding, my protection has actually hurt me more and others. But here it's self-awareness. I've gone through it, I'm looking at it, and I'm building a new me through self-awareness. The way we speak about ourselves, we can either be mindless or we can be intentional. Can we flourish from here? The way that we talk about ourselves, the way that we behave ourselves, the way that we see the world around us. If you know about the 4 agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz, he talks about impeccable word. Being impeccable with your word means that you aren't going to lie about what you've done or said or experienced. Over the last several weeks, I've actually had the opportunity within myself to see that my radical truths were hurting and angering someone else's lives. This truth comes from the heart. This truth comes from divinity. And we can either speak badly, poorly, or we can speak hope, love, inspiration, divine. And as we continue to cultivate ourselves, we begin to speak truth more readily. It's easier for us to really discuss the truth of the matters that are out there. And finally, I see this as a child sitting in the womb, innocent, pure, looking forward to the world around it, looking forward to what there is, the possibilities, maybe listening in on conversations before they've even been born, looking forward, looking ahead, knowing, oh my gosh, I'm going to be there soon. All of this comes back to me to all of the things that I have downloaded within the last couple of weeks. One of the number one things that I've been working on with my clients is the inner child. And the inner child is a very, very interesting aspect of ourselves because it is the 0 to 7, 8-year-old that has been wounded by the world by parents, by relationships, by programming that longs to be different, longs to be heard, longs to just sit in joy and excitement and fun. And the number one thing right now that I'm getting is the inner child coping emotions. Now, you don't need to know the meaning of all of it. What I do is, as I find and identify the energies that are within us, I help you release them. And I've helped people now all over the world, all across the United States, heal these inner wounds, these inner energies that are carrying a lot of weight in our energetic field. But if we were to identify it, know where they're coming from, understand it, and then clear it, we would actually be able to heal it. And we wouldn't have to carry that energetic signature with us anymore. That vibration would completely be gone from our system. Inner child coping emotions are the emotions that we have developed to cope with the world around us. Avoidance is the number one thing that's running through my head right now. Avoidance of discomfort. I remember when I was younger, how painful it was to feel my feelings. Through my separation and divorce, I was talking to my kid's dad, who him and his wife have been such a supportive, amazing, just they have my back. And it was interesting because I was upset because when I was asking for that type of co-parenting relationship from these other parties, they just did not want to give it to me. And to me, I felt like I was doing what was best and I just wanted to be heard. And as I've been working through my own shiz, the inner child coping emotions have really come up for me. And that reflection I've been able to see in other people as well, their energetic signature. Avoidance, avoiding difficult situations, avoiding tough conversations that would actually ultimately build and grow us. And for me, rejection. I felt super rejected. And watching my kid's dad and his wife support me, care about how I'm doing, because they know that ultimately our children, because she may be stepmom, but she's just as much mom. Her value is important to me because my daughter can talk to her about things that she doesn't want to talk to me about. And avoiding emotions can make us really detach from the world around us and detach from ourselves inside. So I was talking to my kid's dad the other day, and he asked me a couple of questions, and it was a few weeks ago, more towards the beginning of all of this. And he said, look, my recommendation, I know how you get with your feelings. Just distract yourself, throw yourself into work and just distract yourself completely. And I was like, first of all, I'm not the person that you remember me as. I can handle my emotions much better now through the work that I do. I can handle it. I can feel it and not go into meltdown breakdown mode. And then he said, okay, well, if you're not going to throw yourself into work and distract yourself, you should go back to boxing. And I thought about it and I was like, that's a good one. And I said, why boxing? And he said, because through the whole time I've ever known you, boxing makes you feel confident in yourself. And I was like, you're right. So when I go to the gym, I go box and I punch a bag. And I've developed healthier coping emotions because my inner child needed to run away. As an inner child, my body, my emotions, and my thoughts were all violated. As a child, I learned that avoiding at all cost was the most important thing for my survival. And that's how I coped. But that's also how I repeated toxic patterns, bled all over people that did not cut me, have poor communication skills, not be able to voice my needs, withdraw from people that cared about me. I can honestly say I did lose a lot of relationships through that because of that. And at a certain point in my life, I said, no, I don't want that anymore. I want to build genuine, real connections. I want to commit to people, the right people. And inner child coping emotions. How did I cope through avoidance? I really wasn't. I was just avoiding. Weird, right? The next type of energy that I've found that I can begin to release from you or anyone that is interested in booking a session with me is the wound of over acceptance. This one is very, very powerful because while I was doing this session for myself, I was astounded by how I had been overly accepting abuse or toxicity in my previous relationships. Not just the one that just ended, but other ones too. I remember at one point I was having a discussion because I was just putting my feelings out on the table. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be understood. In all honesty, I wanted to be comforted. That was mainly what I wanted. And this person called me a hypocrite. And I was taken aback because why would you call names? And that was a huge red flag that my older self would have never seen. And I began to see it more and more. That moment that he called me a name made me feel less respect for that person because it was, I did not come at you that way. Why would you do that? What made you think that that's okay to name call? We're not in middle school and we should be more evolved than that. But my wound of over acceptance brushed it off as he's angry, he's upset, he's frustrated. That doesn't give anyone the right to call you names. A few days later or before, he called me a B word. And to me, that is one of the most disrespectful things you can ever call someone. And I started to see those patterns. And while doing my session, I recognized, oh, wait a minute. This person has been showing their true colors. They've been unmasking in front of me, but my wound of over acceptance was not allowing me to see that blind spot because when I was a child, I loved the people that called me names because that was the only form of survival. As a child, the friendships that I had that were the most stable and the most consistent were people that did not treat me fairly or correctly and made fun of me. My aunts and uncles on both sides thought it was really funny to poke fun at people. So humiliation was something that was normal. How did that create over acceptance in myself? So now I want to ask you, what inner emotions, inner child coping emotions are you using? Mine was avoidance. What if yours is frustration, anger, sadness, abandonment? If your inner coping emotions, inner child coping emotions are abandonment, will you find more people that abandon you or fulfill that prophecy inside you? The wound of over acceptance. Are you accepting more pain than you should? It can be really difficult to face that, but it's also liberating and freeing and empowering to know that I'm not going to accept your bad behavior. I am willing to sit through the muck with you and look at it and be there if you are willing to change. But if you are not willing to change, then I do not need to accept this behavior for my life. And a lot of us with these inner child wounds do not know how to move past this pain and the shielding and the inability to really look within. To me, energy healing changed my life. I literally was here cultivating, building, growing, looking at every single petal that had created my life in that moment, those shadows. And as those shadows were revealed, the light continued to come through. And I was growing and building, and I still to this day am. This is how I feel today. This is how I feel today. New, hopeful, loved, held, comforted. God, universe, whatever it is you want to call it, higher power, higher self, has my back. I may not have had a childhood that held me and comforted me, but it is my responsibility to bring myself back into whole. This inner child that was hurt and in pain and suffering and shielded, had to shield. My grown-up self, I don't have to. I can look at people's behavior and understand when I'm over accepting something, maybe because I wanted to be loved. I can look at the inner child wounding emotions and see what emotions are dictating my behavior. Yesterday at my sound bath, one of my clients said, "Oh, this is so uncomfortable," because we did a guided meditation on inner child. And as I did that session, I knew that everyone in that room was able to sense their inner child, was healing something inside of themselves that had to do with that inner child. And the more that we heal that inner child within us, the more that we actually are able to build and grow and thrive. We stop holding the same patterns because we don't want to continue generational trauma. Trauma that has been passed down from generation to generation has led us to who we are today. And I, for one, think we need to change. I challenge you to really look deeply into your coping emotions. How do you cope? Do you go numb? Do you avoid? Do you get depressed? They're all okay. You just need to know. The awareness, the understanding of yourself is where the healing begins. Oh, I do not like difficult conversations, so I avoid them. I do not like large crowds, so I withdraw into myself. I feel abandoned because my parents abandoned me, or my dad left, or my mom left, and I didn't have them. They emotionally abandoned me. They didn't talk to me about any of what I felt. They just were there and they'd say, "Oh, what'd you do today?" "Nothing." "Oh, okay. I love you. Have a good day." That is a form of emotional abandonment, neglect, even, because we are multifaceted beings. We need to take care of our physical, our mental, our emotional, and our spirit. And the spirit is so important because it's the one that navigates the rest. And I would like you to, again, look at the wound of overacceptance. How are you overly accepting bad behavior? Are you accepting someone calling you a name like I did and thinking, oh, they're just angry right now? Instead of really looking at the fundamental truth that this person is not being respectful. This person is not really for you if they have to use names to communicate. That's just not realistic. Is that what I want in my life? No. My situation may be different than yours, but they're all situations nonetheless. Today, I would really love to invite you to check those out. See how they are showing up in your life and how that pattern has continued in your life today. Because my inner child coping emotion of avoidance, instead of looking at that wound of the wound of overacceptance, I avoided it. I said, oh, I gave them an out to their behavior. That's not okay, especially when you know your worth. Was I knowing my worth in that moment in time? Probably not fully, not the way that I should. But that's okay because now we walk into grace, compassion, love, understanding of ourselves, and really new birth, new beginning, building new paradigms within us to become that whole self, that hopeful, loving, comforted, cherished self. I hope this reading helped you all. I hope that you take a moment to really look at the wounding from your inner child coping emotions, and your wound of overacceptance. These energies are strong within us, but as you clear and you heal the world around you. One person has the ability to affect up to 500,000 people all over the world. How are you affecting others? I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Until next time.